knows how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with. That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're an Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I would slap you.
Go ahead, make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. Welcome to the second hour of the show already. It's Wednesday. I do appreciate you being with me, folks. It's a spiritual battle between good and evil. I told you a month ago about this trial that's happening in Philadelphia right now. It is just absolutely mind-blowing. I have with me Joe Slobodzian, a criminal court reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he's going to update us on the trial of Philadelphia abortionist Kermit Gosnell, now in his fifth week. And Gosnell is 72 years old and is charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder of babies born alive. And he faces the death penalty. Good. I hope they hang him. If the jury finds him guilty, he's also charged with third-degree murder of a woman who was given too much Demerol as part of her abortion procedure. This is absolutely mind-blowing, folks, and the liberal media is starting to pick up on it a little bit. We've been talking about for a while now. Joe, good morning, sir, and welcome to the show. Thanks for coming back on with me.
Jesse, thanks for inviting me back. It's a pleasure.
No, you have been, just up on this trial. You're there, you're seeing and hearing what's going on. Can you update us on what's happened, as to what's happened? I know yesterday there was a heated exchange between Gosnell's lawyer and the judge. Tell us about that.
There is a real question, I guess, how much information that a witness can testify about the operation of the clinic, and particularly some of the statements that were made between one person and another who involved in the clinic. And Miss Jack McMahon, Gosnell's attorney, disputed some of Judge Meinhardt's rulings and wound up in a shouting match at the end of the day, and the judge telling McMahon to sit down and behave yourself and act like a lawyer.
Wow.
I should tell you that the interesting fact of this is that Judge Meinhardt and Jack McMahon, the defense attorney, and one of the prosecutors, Ed Cameron, all worked together years ago in the district attorney's office. So they're all known commodities, and they're all tough lawyers. And so we've been getting this a lot, where one lawyer will disagree with the other, and it gets heated pretty quickly.
It was this argument was it turned into an argument when they were talking about whether these infants were born alive or not, right?
Right, and that's the I guess the contrast. What essentially Jack McMahon is arguing on behalf of Dr. Gosnell is that the current procedure since 2007, when the U.S. Supreme Court affirmed the ban on the so-called late-term live abortions, after that was that Supreme Court ruling, abortion doctors involved in late second trimester abortions began using one of two drugs. One is digoxin, which is essentially digitalis. It's the heart medicine, but if it's injected into the womb or into the fetus, it will essentially kill it before the actual abortion takes place. and then it's essentially removing the remains of the fetus. The other one is potassium chloride, which is another drug that's used. Their argument is this is legal under the law. The minute you use this drug, that unborn child, the fetus, is doomed. It will die.
Yeah.
So the fact that there may be a breath drawn during the abortion procedure or movements, body movements, things like that, they're saying it could just be spasms or, as the lawyer has said, Jack McMahon, the death throes of this infant. But it's not illegal. That's the argument. It's a legal argument, and we'll see at the end of the trial whether it holds up in front of the jury.
I read that there was a testimony about a federal agent or federal agents discovering the remains of 47 frozen fetuses during a 2010 raid. Is it Gosnell or Gosnell?
It's Gosnell.
Oh, okay. Because I hear it both ways. But did they really find 47 frozen fetuses?
Yes. What happened was, according to the trial testimony, Dr. Gosnell got into a billing dispute in 2008 or 2009 with the company that provided his biomedical waste removal. And so while he was trying to settle up this billing dispute, he started freezing the remains of fetuses, babies, and putting them in the freezer section of his refrigerator in the clinic. Obviously, they've been there for a long time, and they had frozen together. So the Philadelphia medical examiner, when the FBI brought these remains in, had to figure out a way to thaw them and try to determine if there was a cause of death and their gestational age to determine whether it's in violation of Pennsylvania's abortion law. And Dr. Sam Galino, the medical examiner here in Philadelphia, I mean, his comment was this was unprecedented, this job. He's never had to do something like this before. And in fact, he contacted other medical examiners around the country for advice on how he might be able to do this and still be able to determine a cause of death and an age. And eventually he counted 47 fetuses, ranging, I believe, up to 28 weeks.
Wow.
And one of those is one of the fetuses who was identified in the grand jury as baby boy B is one of the first-degree murder counts against the doctor. And the other ones are, some of them are past the second trimester. A lot of them aren't. But there were 47 of them, and it's what we've been hearing about for the last few weeks.
30 jars containing fetal feet.
Yeah, there were up to 30. By the time they did the raid, employees said they saw up to 30. By the time they did the raid, there were 5. And it's hard to understand what the reason was. Dr. Gosnell told one employee who asked that it was for DNA identification purposes. He told another employee that it was for medical research, that local medical schools would come in and use these feet for medical research. The experts who have testified, experts in obstetrics and gynecology and medical research, said they'd never heard of such a thing. So we still don't really know why this was done.
So is you're looking at this so-called abortion doctor. He's sitting there, Gosnell is sitting there right in the courtroom.
Correct.
Does he seem to be mentally ill or something? This guy was doing some pretty gruesome stuff to children, unborn children, and some born. Does he seem as though he's mentally ill, or did he lose his... What's up with this guy?
No, he doesn't seem mentally ill at all. I'll say that he did undergo some pretrial psychiatric testing, as you might imagine, and he was deemed mentally competent to stand trial and assist in his defense. In courtroom, he's dressed generally in a business suit, and he takes copious notes on a legal pad. And
Let me hold that thought, Joe. I'm sorry. Hold that thought. I'll come back in a moment.
My hands, they're strong, but my knees. 'Cause when a heart breaks, no, it don't break. No, it don't break. No, it don't break even. What am I gonna do when the best part of me goes?
I'm talking to Joe Slobodzian, a criminal court reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. This trial in its fifth week, Kermit Gosnell, a black abortionist who just does some horrific things in the area of abortion. I mean, just absolutely mind-blowing. Joe, you wrote last week that one of Gosnell's employee, Sherry West, testified about helping with an abortion, and West said it wasn't fully developed, referring to the 18 to 24-inch long newborn in the pan. It didn't have eyes or a mouth, but it was like screeching, making this noise. It was weird. It sounded like a little alien. How did that go across there in the courtroom?
Well, it was, as you might imagine, it was, I think, a pretty chilling moment. She certainly was, even describing it again, seemed to be upset by it. Now, it's interesting because a subsequent witness from the clinic, another employee who had pleaded guilty and cooperated with prosecution, her name is Linda Williams, also testified about that incident, saying essentially that Sherry West asked her to come in. There was an emergency, and she came in and saw the same infant. Now, she said she saw it moving and heard the noise, but she did not describe the infant as malformed. She didn't say. She said that there was no problem with its eyes or mouth. So I don't know what possibly Sherry West saw that Linda Williams didn't. It could just be different people see different things.
Right.
But yeah, it was a one of several cases of employees saying that they saw what they believed to be a live-born infant during an abortion procedure.
Linda Williams also testified that a woman expelled a fetus into the toilet, and she saw its arms moving.
Correct.
And Williams said she took a pair of scissors and snipped the spine as the Gosnell showed her.
Correct.
How are these people able to do this to human beings like this?
You're going to have to ask a better mind than mine, Jesse. It's, what I can tell you about the employees is, by and large, they are have very limited education. Linda Williams went as far as 7th grade in school. Some of them have mental, emotional problems. They all go to Dr. Gosnell and seem to get hired by him because he pays them under the table, and essentially they've got a guaranteed place of employment. And again, Dr. Gosnell, when anybody asks him, "Can I really do this?" his reply is "I'm the doctor. I'm allowed to grandfather you in, so you can do anesthesia even though you have no training. You can help in a procedure even though you have no training. You can provide medications even though you have no training." It's sort of like an alternative world that start working in, and that's the reality they deal with. But,
what impact is this having on you, sitting there listening to this stuff and you're seeing the pictures of these children being killed as well, right?
Yeah, it's.
How's it impacting you?
Well, it's on one hand, I've been a reporter for almost 40 years, and I've seen a lot of nasty things in my career. Although, frankly, this is going to have to do as the nastiest until something worse comes along.
Right.
It's just horrendous. I try to focus on describing for the Inquirer's readers what's going on in the courtroom, the emotion, describing the people who are involved in this, and that really is the focus of my mind. On the other hand, I have to say that there are days I get home and my wife says, well, how did it go today? And I say, I'm just exhausted. And it's not just exhaustion, I think, from working a long day. It's sort of an emotional, mental exhaustion because you see this so many times, and it takes a toll.
I bet, man. And we have about 3 or 4 minutes left here. The jury, how do they seem to be dealing with this?
Well, it's difficult to say. Juries are often have poker faces, and this jury is pretty much that way. You don't see a lot of displays of emotion or shock. On the other hand, they've been there. This is now the middle of the 5th week of the trial, so as I'm sure if you're training to be a doctor, for example, or a paramedic or an EMT, the first time you see somebody seriously injured or dead, it's shocking and you have trouble dealing with it. But then after the 20th or 30th photograph you see of this, it starts. You start to, I think, become inured to it, if only for self-protection.
I noticed that the liberal media is starting to pick up on this a little bit. Are they holding back because the abortion doctor is black, the children are black, the mothers of these abortion, possible children? Is it because everybody's black, or they support abortion?
You have to ask them. Them what their reason for coverage. All I can tell you is that I and my editors at the Inquirer considered this an important story that had to be covered. It's
very
in our
important.
backyard, and there was no question that we were going to cover this from start to finish. There could be, I guess, especially for broadcast networks, there's no cameras in courtrooms in Pennsylvania. So it may be, well, there's nothing we can use to illustrate this story. We're not going to have video of people on the witness stand. And, a trial going up to 8 weeks is an extraordinary commitment of time. But as for the reason they're deciding to cover it or not cover it, that's something you have to ask the individual executives of those news organizations.
Tell the folks how they can keep up with this story, read your reports, keep up with what you're doing.
You can find my reports on www.philly.com, which is the website for the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Daily News. We also have our new website just starting up called Inquirer.com. But Philly.com, you can get the updates. I usually update the story once, twice during the day, and then it's updated for our print edition the next day. And, I tweet regularly. My Twitter handle is at Joe Slobo, JoeSlobo, and I try to post updates during the course of the day on that as well. So I'm out there.
You are, Joe, and I appreciate you reporting this. Reading about this last night, I don't think I would want to be you sitting in that court listening to all this and seeing this day in and day out. But thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a great job on reporting what's going on there. And we'll have you back to update us even more so as this trial moves forward. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate the opportunity, Jesse. Take care of yourself.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. 888-7753-773.